That's a very good question, because you know that RGCC is already launched now, and I am the Greek representative. I can tell you the cost in Greece. In UK, this is something that involves the UK office. So she is the most important person in this question. Not
Okay, although the cost is in euros, because of the fluctuating exchange rate. It's the full chemosensitivity test, which tests over 40 cytotoxic agents and over 40 complementary agents. We haven't, mentioned this during the presentation.
Yeah.
RGCC is the only lab I know of worldwide that also tests natural substances, or what we would consider complementary cancer treatments. So all of that, plus the full genetic profile of the malignant cells, is €1,300. That's the basic price. Obviously, at different clinics doing the test, there may be an additional charge for bottling. And the screening test for circulating tumour cells are €340. Sounds an awful lot of money, but actually, if you look at these sorts of assays, that have been done elsewhere, there's almost no comparison. They're much more expensive.
Allow me, she has priority. She was the first.
Good evening, Dr. Daniel. Very, very pleased to hear everything you have to say. Thoroughly inspired by what you're doing. I just need to understand. I can see where you're testing orthodox chemicals, where there are identified targets.
Yep.
It's perhaps easier to match up the targets you're identifying through your assays and potential sensitivity to chemotherapy. Where you are testing the natural medicines that Nicola just alluded to, where we don't know the mechanisms of action.
Yes, that's true.
And particularly where we're not using medicines which are necessarily cytotoxic so much as medicines changing the microenvironment. How can you say which ones are...
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, because I didn't mention it here, because the genetic profile can give us information concerning the features of cancer cells. But as I said, genes can provide only the frame of the phenotype. So we have to confirm this information. For example, when we have alteration of topoisomerase 1 or 2, it means that, okay, we may have a sensitivity or resistance to irinotecan or not. This means that we took these cells, we grew them exponentially in microwells, and we actually test them in supplementary or in complementary treatments or in natural extracts. The profile is chaotic because it doesn't have only one mechanism. As far as I saw, it's multiple. They work more smoothly when they work. So the only thing that can take us out is a viability test. If you have induction of cell death or not. But also you cannot expect to see the cell death by itself because it may take time.
So with a medicine like Cartol, for example, where the main mechanism is not cytotoxicity, is this potentially, some of my clients come back, negative, it comes back negative for Cartol, but I'm clinically seeing improvement on Cartol, and I'm just wondering whether that's confusing, where some of these natural medicines may not be working because of cytotoxicity.
No, actually it's not, because when you perform the test, a viability actually test, or the induction of apoptosis, it means that the substance is active or not active in cancer cells. But you will never, there is no indication of how they work in microenvironment. To do that, either you have to test it on a human, which is unethical, you will go to prison for that, or you have to do it in an ideal world when you may have an extremely perfect xenograph which would be identical to a human and to perform an orthotopic model.
Okay.
Doesn't exist in this world.
I understood correctly then that all these, with the natural medicines, you are literally setting up cell cultures against these medicines?
Exactly.
Okay.
or we can perform a test because some substances does not work to cells themselves, but they may work to the immune system. So since our sample is blood, we can isolate the cells of our wish from there, and we can see how they work there and see the cytokine profile there. You're welcome. Whoa. You said.
I just wanted to ask you about your genetic profile.
Mm-hmm.
You did mention oncotype DX. I'd like you to explain a little bit more about what you mean by your genetic fingerprinting.
Mm-hmm.
How it relates to oncotype DX, but more importantly, how it relates to the Amsterdam